Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. If you find this video to be interesting or helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks so I can talk about the signs of a husband who's too agreeable. I've also heard this worded as dangerously agreeable. Those are two words you don't see put together too often, but it seems like a legitimate concern. So I'll answer these questions by looking at the 10 signs of a husband who is dangerously agreeable. This video is focused on a husband and wife relationship, one that is somewhat established, not a new relationship. The husband's level of agreeableness, of course, would be high for this video, but the wife's level would be normal. These signs could also apply to a long-term relationship, whether or not the couple was married. The word agreeable is one of those words that's used in normal speech, but it also has a technical meaning in the world of personality theory. It's one of the big 5 traits, so from the FiveFactor Model. I remember the big 5 traits of personality by using the acronym OCEAN: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Any particular person's level of agreeableness is determined by 6 facets. So you have the trait, agreeableness, and you have these facets underneath of it. The 6 facets of agreeableness are trust, straightforwardness, altruism, compliance, modesty, and tendermindedness. Now, technically speaking, there isn't such a thing as too agreeable or not agreeable enough, for that matter. When I use this term too agreeable or dangerously agreeable, I'm really talking about a level of agreeableness that can result in negative outcomes for the husband and for the marriage in general. How a husband will act if he's too agreeable is, of course, dependent on which facets have high scores. Somebody could be high on agreeableness overall, but still have a few low facet scores. It also depends on the level of other personality traits. Someone who is too agreeable and also is conscientious and extroverted will behave differently than somebody who's too agreeable and is low on conscientiousness and extroversion. So we have to be careful about looking at one personality trait in isolation of the other personality traits. Now, taking a look at the 10 signs, these don't necessarily indicate agreeableness in any specific instance. They are simply associated with it. When I'm describing the signs, I'm going to refer to the term husband. Here I'm talking about the husband who is dangerously agreeable. It's just easier to say husband than saying that other phrase over and over. So sign number 1, the husband is terrible at negotiating. And this is for a variety of reasons. Most of it has to do with high compliance, high trust, and high straightforwardness. The husband wants to get along with everybody, he trusts everybody, and he puts information out there directly, even information that might not be good for him in a negotiation. The husband makes fewer demands and more concessions, and he's more likely to adopt a negotiation style that benefits the other party. This is particularly noticeable when negotiating for big-ticket items, like a house or a car. Using the example of a car purchase, the husband might be talked into buying a vehicle that is not a good fit for the couple's needs. He might pay the asking price. He might not try to negotiate on the price. He doesn't try to get the dealer to fix anything that's wrong with the car. He also buys all the extra products and services that the dealership is selling. Under most circumstances, these add-ons are not good values. Undercoating, pinstripes, extended warranties, running boards, almost everything a dealer sells can be obtained somewhere else at a cheaper price. Sign number 2 is the husband has difficulty managing money. This is actually a well-known effect associated with agreeableness. Agreeableness is consistently associated with a wide variety of negative financial outcomes like reduced earnings, higher debt, a smaller amount of savings, lower credit scores, and an increased risk of bankruptcy. This poor performance with money is greatly magnified if the high agreeableness is combined with low conscientiousness and/or high neuroticism. Both of those traits have impulsivity on them in different ways. Low conscientiousness has an impulsivity that's related to acting spontaneously, so not thinking before acting. And neuroticism, here we see an impulsiveness related to the inability to resist temptation. Again, of course, any type of impulsivity matched with high agreeableness is going to be problematic in terms of managing money. One reason the husband might be bad at managing money would be this idea I mentioned in sign number 1, which is that he is a poor negotiator. But interestingly, more evidence points to another explanation that has been tied in with agreeableness. The husband assigns a lower subjective value to money. So essentially, money is not as important to people who are too agreeable. Sign number 3, The husband over-empathizes and over-sympathizes. Now, in general, empathy is considered positive almost always, and sympathy is considered positive in many situations. Empathy is understanding how someone feels, so it's a cognitive understanding of emotions. Sympathy is feeling the same way as another person. What are the dangers of too much empathy and sympathy? Well, unnecessary suffering and an inability to be helpful. Using an example where the husband is over-sympathizing with the wife, say the wife is having some sort of emotional pain, like anxiety. In a sense, it's good that the husband understands the anxiety, like he's not judgmental and he doesn't assume the wife is exaggerating symptoms. But at the same time, he's feeling anxiety himself, again, sympathizing, feeling the same way as the other person. And therefore, he has difficulty staying calm and helping to navigate a stressful situation. This is particularly noticeable when agreeableness is merged with high neuroticism. Sign number 4 is the husband doesn't know when to stop talking. Now, this isn't in the sense of being loquacious. That's measured on extroversion. So someone who's highly extroverted is too talkative. This is more about what the husband says versus how much the husband says. So it's a matter of the quality of what he's saying, not the quantity. This is captured on the straightforwardness facet. The husband makes no effort to be tactful or a little crafty when he's saying something. In a sense, he shares too much. Now, sometimes this can be stressful for the wife. Perhaps the wife doesn't like a particular uncle who comes around the house from time to time. She's careful what she says in front of him, especially about upcoming events, because she doesn't want to feel obligated to invite the uncle to any of these events. Yet when the husband is talking to the uncle, he shares information about an upcoming birthday party, holiday party, something like that. The husband shares information without exercising discretion. Sign number 5 is that the husband does not stand up for his wife or defend the relationship. This happens more often if the husband and the wife are a bit enmeshed. So if the husband's identity, including his high agreeableness, merges, at least in his mind, with the wife's identity. He doesn't stand up for himself as a function of his high agreeableness, and because of the enmeshment, he won't stand up for the wife or the marriage either. I've seen some incredible examples of this in my career. One circumstance was this instance where the husband caught the wife having an affair, and he asked politely if he could talk to the other man. So the two talk, and after talking for a while, the husband came to connect with the other man's point of view. The other guy was lonely, the husband's wife was attractive to him, so the husband was really buying all the other man's excuses. So the husband tells him that he would really appreciate it if the other man would stop having an affair soon, if he wouldn't mind, like no more than a few months. So essentially, the husband is giving the other man and his wife permission to continue the affair. That kind of approach is not going to lead to the husband being taken seriously, and it seems like the investment in the marriage is pretty low. Sign number 6 is that the husband cannot comprehend zero-sum situations. He sees situations that are really about competition as being about cooperation. He doesn't believe in situations where one person must be the winner, and through this occurrence, the other person would have to be the loser. For example, let's say there's this conflict with the couple and some of their neighbors. The neighbors keep parking their vehicles in the couple's driveway. In most situations, this would be a behavior that simply would have to stop. The neighbors in this situation are not cooperating, but rather competing. There is a winner and a loser. Either the neighbors can continue to park and the couple would lose the use of their driveway, or the neighbors aren't going to park there anymore. Therefore, the couple is going to win. In a sense, by simply framing something as a situation that involves cooperating when it doesn't, the husband puts himself and the wife in a bad position. Sign number 7 is that everyone is taking advantage of the husband. This ties in with both trust and altruism. I talked about how being too trusting can be negative, like in the car purchase example, but it's hard to think of how altruism could be bad. How can somebody be too altruistic? Well, when altruism gets too high, the husband gets involved with the problems of other people, even when he really can't be too helpful in those situations. He offers resources that the couple needs to other people, even if other people get very little utility from that resource, and the couple could really put that resource to good use. So an example I've seen of this several times, there's this situation for many people when a son or a daughter moves out of the parental home, right? So the husband and wife have children, the children move out. For this example, I'm just going to say it's a daughter who's moved out. So the daughter moves out and she asks the father if she can keep her stuff in her old bedroom. Like the daughter doesn't want to give up the room even though she's moving out and she won't be living there anymore, even on occasion. The wife might say something like, let the daughter store some of her stuff in the basement or in the attic, but the husband, being too altruistic, gives up the bedroom that the couple could use for something else. Like they could make it into a guest bedroom. They could use it for something more efficient than storage, at least in theory. This specific example, of course, could also be explained by high neuroticism. The husband, the father, is anxious. He doesn't want the daughter to be mad at him, so he gives in. Moving to sign number 8. The husband works to end arguments quickly and forgets about an argument shortly after it's over. This is tied in with high compliance. The husband is able to restrain feelings of anger and prevent himself from becoming aggressive. He forgives and forgets right away. So how is this a bad thing? How is this an example of being dangerously agreeable? Well, avoiding the aggression part, of course, is good. If someone can avoid aggression, that's always positive. The bad part is that the husband has difficulty learning from the patterns of arguing. There's no learning from his mistakes or the wife's mistakes that may have contributed to the argument. Therefore, the ability to avoid future arguments is reduced. Sign number 9, the husband has a stronger negative emotional reaction to situations. Now, this may seem like neuroticism and not agreeableness, and neuroticism does play a part in this, but when looking at the contribution of agreeableness, we know from the research literature that people who are high in agreeableness have more negative emotions and they need to exert more energy in order to control negative emotions. There is a theory here that this is caused by empathy. To some extent, the husband becomes more emotionally invested because of his compassion and caring. So his response to negative stimuli is much stronger and more emotional than somebody with lower agreeableness. An example here would be overreacting to a son who fails a test in elementary school. The husband may immediately want to bring in additional resources like a tutor. He may want to alter his parenting style, so blaming himself for the son failing the test. He may want to go down to the school and try to talk to the teachers and figure out what's going on, like in an urgent way. Whereas the wife, again, in this example, someone who has a normal level of agreeableness, may have a more measured response. Sign number 10, the husband is overconfident. Now this is interesting because it would seem like this sign is more related to low agreeableness. Somebody with low agreeableness, of course, can be overconfident. We see that quite a bit with narcissism. But overconfidence is actually more associated with high agreeableness. The husband's overconfidence is expressed by an overestimation of his own abilities, performance, and his chances of success. He also believes his decision-making processes are efficient. One of the theories here is that the individual with high agreeableness is motivated to obtain social status. So they look for harmonious and positive relationships. Overconfidence can have a benefit in this way. When somebody is confident, they are more likely to be viewed positively in social situations, and people are more likely to want to work with that person on a project or other team-oriented tasks. So this appears to be driven by the compliance facet. The husband has more opportunity to cooperate with others if he's overconfident. So those are the 10 signs of a husband who is dangerously agreeable. A lot of times when we think of the agreeableness facet, of course, we think high agreeableness is more socially desirable. And that's true. Generally it is. But this is kind of a good example of how extremes on any personality trait can have negative outcomes. Being too disagreeable certainly has negative outcomes. Being too agreeable does as well. I know whenever I talk about topics like agreeableness, there will be a variety of opinions. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate really interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found this description of being dangerously agreeable to be interesting. Thanks for watching.